Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe, and we are actually in, or rather, Zouhair and Seth are in the actual World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh that is waiting to welcome guests wherever they come over from this world. It's a beautiful place. The food is wonderful. The stories are better, and well, no, they're both equally good. I quite that's in fact the food is fantastic. But right now we're moving into the land of stories, and Seth Townsend, who was there for the festival, is back in Marrakesh, where I will be in a couple of weeks' time. And so, Seth, are you going to start tonight?
Yes, why not? It's
Please
about time.
do. Please take us
All
to the
right.
land.
Thank you so much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Seth, for making it to the cafe. That's really wonderful.
You're welcome.
Seth is the best. Just the best.
Oh,
I'm honored. I'm full of honor right now because I'm sitting next to Seth and having a set with him. So Seth will take over the first story. I'll take the one in the middle, and he will be the one in the evening from here from World Storytelling Cafe. So yeah, Seth, you can come to the middle.
Okay,
The
thank
floor
you.
is all yours.
shukran. Hello, everybody. I must say how wonderful it is to be back in Marrakesh, or Marrakech, or Marrakech, depending how you say it, and especially in the World Storytelling Cafe, because this is where the festival happened, where I met all these wonderful people I'd only met online, and one of the reasons I'm here is I was very impressed when I came about the response of people in Morocco to their Jewish friends. And I'm Jewish, and I'm researching Jewish stories from Morocco at the moment. And so I thought I would start with a Jewish story, a very old and very famous Jewish story, which I think many people in Morocco have told over the centuries. And remember, the Jews were here 1,000 years before any Arabs were here. And what language did they speak? They spoke the Berber language of Tamazight. And here we have the story. And it starts like this. Aben Amar, moro della morería, el día que tú naciste, grandes señales había. Now, even though the Jews spoke Tamazight, the language of the Berbers, later people came from Spain and they spoke a language here in Morocco which was called Hakatiya, based on the old Spanish. And this story is even older than that. So here we go. King Hagag, proud King Hagag, sat on his throne in state, and his chief priest, was reading from the holy book. Now, it happened that King Hagag was distracted, and he wasn't really listening. Every morning he heard words from the holy book. But when he heard these words, riches do not last forever, and do crowns of kings stay for generations? He said, What? What were those words? Say them again. Riches do not last forever, and do crowns of kings endure for generations? Where do those words come from? And the high priest said, They come from the holy book, your majesty. Give me that book. And he took the book and he looked and he tore out the paper, screwed it up and threw it onto the floor. He picked up the book and he threw it. Everyone was a tremble. All the courtiers and the high priest, they didn't know what to say. I, Hagag, am the king, and any words that don't please me from this holy book, I will do the same. I've stayed here long enough. I want to go hunting. I've been waiting to hunt for ages. And very soon he was out, going towards the forest, where they say a stag had been seen. And he was racing on his horse, the fastest horse that he had, that was in the kingdom, the best horse that was there, and he was going apace. And then he heard the trumpet, which signalled the fact that the stag had moved from its hiding place in the forest and was now on the open field. And the king, wanting to get ahead of all his other people, he rode and he rode and he rode and he rode, and until he'd left all his nobles and his courtiers behind, and there was just the stag, just the deer in front of him, and he raced and raced and raced, but that deer was so fast, and he saw the deer come to a river, and straight into the river that deer went and came up onto the other bank, and when it was on the other bank, its antlers, its horns stuck into the branches of a tree. And King Hagag came up on the other side of the river and saw what had happened, and he thought, ha ha ha, now I've got you. But even though Hagag was a hunter, and even though Hagag wanted to get this stag, he didn't want to dirty his royal robes. And so he took off his royal robes, and he stood there just in his underwear, and with his sword he swam across that river and came onto the other bank. But when he got there, the stag had run into a thicket of bushes, and there the stag was in the bushes, and King Hagag, with just his sword and his underpants, he went into that thicket of bushes. And when he got there was no stag, because the stag horn had unloosened themselves into that thicket he'd gone, and instead of a deer, there was a beautiful young boy, dressed in the clothes of a deer, dressed in deerskins. And he was panting as if he'd been running. And he said, I am not the stag. I am a genie. And I lured you here to punish you for the words that you said this morning. The words that you disliked in the holy book. King Hagag was so shocked, and the boy jumped up, and King Hagag dropped his sword, and the boy took the sword, swam back across the river, and put on the clothes of King Hagag. King Hagag on the other side, he saw what had happened because his people were coming. And now the boy, dressed as King Hagag, the genie, said, the deer has escaped. Let us return. And the real King Hagag was on the other side of the river, and he threw himself onto the ground, and he wept and he wept and he wept, because look, he saw his horse going. He saw a genie in his place going towards... until a woodcutter came along and said, what are you doing? Who are you? What are you doing? What am I doing? I am King Hagag. King Hagag, you good-for-nothing scoundrel. You're no King Hagag. Look at you. You're dressed in underpants and you've got mud all over you. No, I'm King Hagag. Oh, shut up. Carry this wood for me. But, oh, shut up with your... I'll give you some clothes if you carry this wood for me. So King Hagag had to take the wood, and he was given some old raggedy clothes. And by the end of the day, he'd made his way back across the river and to the royal palace. And he went to the guards. It was late, and he knocked on the gate, and the guards came. What do you want? What do you want? What are you, rascal? I'm King Hagag. King Hagag? Oh, don't you insult our majestic king. Off you go, off you go. And King Hagag had to spend the night on the streets of his city, which he didn't know what it was like at night. And in the morning, he didn't know what to do with himself. And if it wasn't for an old lady who gave him some bread and some milk, he would have gone hungry. And the boys, as he stood on the corner of the street, the boys made fun of him, the children threw stones at him, and he didn't know what he could do. And then, he saw a royal procession. And the royal procession, everyone bowed down to the King Hagag, and he thought, I'm King Hagag. But he couldn't say anything. And he didn't know what to do, and he found himself wandering out of the city, and he went into the fields. He couldn't do anything. What could he do? People wouldn't believe him. And he tried to find work as a labourer. But he couldn't work. His hands were too soft. He didn't know. And he wandered from place to place to place. Now a poor man. Now no one recognized him. Until he fell in with a band of blind beggars whose leader, whose eyes had disappeared and abandoned them. And he quite willingly became the eyes for the band of the blind beggars. And he looked after them, and they begged, and he led them, until one day a herald from the castle came and said, "The King Hagag will welcome all the beggars to a feast in his courtyard. Next week, all the beggars will come." And they came from far, they came from wide, and they sat and they ate. And our real King Hagag, who now was the guide of some blind beggars, he sat there with his blind friends, and they ate the meal. And the king had said that he would see each one of them, and each one of these people came in front of the king until our beggar king stood in front of the genie king. And they looked at each other for a long time. "Are you a beggar?" said the genie King Hagag. "I am not a beggar, but I'm the guide to many blind beggars, and I look after them. But I'm a sinner, and I suffered for my sins, and now I look after these poor blind beggars." And the genie King Hagag told his courtiers to depart, and they left the two of them alone. And the genie king said, "I know who you are. Now it is time for you to take back your proper place in this kingdom." "But I can't. I've learned my lesson. I have to look after my blind fellows." Don't worry. They will be taken care of." And the genie King Hagag took off the royal robes and put them onto the real king. And the poor raggedy clothes of the real king were put onto the genie. And the genie departed. And when all the people came back, nothing seemed to have changed. There was their king. There was the poor man. Off he went. And from that moment on, King Hagag, who was always known to be rather a high, quick-tempered man, seemed to have changed, and he ruled his kingdom beautifully, gently, and with justice for the rest of his days. And that is the old Jewish story, which has been told many times in Morocco here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Seth. It's a wonderful story. Hello, Valvasi. You are here. Hello, welcome. So it's time. Are we ready, John?
We are indeed. That was a wonderful topsy-turvy story from Seth. It was fantastic. Within that huge tradition of topsy-turvy, fantastic story. Now, of course, do you happen to have a story?
Of course.
Please tell.
All right, so my story is about good and evil and why they cannot be together. So Once upon a long time ago, there lived a barber. And this barber had a modest business. He did not make a lot of money, but still, he was positive enough for the people to love him and to always come to him. And he is always offering free cuts for the people he loves. So one day, no clients in his shop, as he was cleaning his shop, cleaning the mirrors, he heard that the door was opened in a rough way. And there comes a guy, so gloomy, with no smile on his face, without even saying Salamu Alaikum. And he said, "Are you the barber?" He said, "Yes, I am, sir." "Okay, here is the thing. I want you to give me a haircut, but do as I command you to do. Do not cut more than I want you to do. Otherwise, you will be in a tricky situation with me." So our barber, he was carefully cutting his hair. And when he finished, let's say this gloomy guy liked the haircut. And he said, "So how much do I have to pay?" He said, "A'udhu billah, I will not charge you for that haircut. It's a simple thing, a gift from me to you. You look like a traveler, new to the city, so that's a gift from me to you." And I said, "All right, if it's the case, I'll come every day for a free haircut." And that's what he did. Every day he would come and eat that barber's food, get a haircut, and leave. After a week or a couple of weeks, this barber asked that man, "Well, you always come to my shop, eat my food, and enjoy my services, but you've never told me your story." I said, "Well, my name is Evil." "Well, is it a nickname?" "Of course, I mean, us Arabs, we like to call each other with weird nicknames." He said, "No, my name is Evil. Actually, when I was born, my mother died, and there was a flood. A lot of bad things happened in my tribe. And what's your name, barber?" I said, "Well, I'm the total opposite. I am good." "Is it a nickname?" "No. Actually, when I was born, everyone was happy. There was rain. No one was suffering. No poverty." I said, "All right." Then Good turned to Evil and he told him, "Do you have any family left?" He said, "No, I have no family, except one aunt that lives in a faraway place. But I have no intention to go and see her." He said, "No, my friend, learn this lesson from me. I have no family left in this world except me and my creator God, Allah. What I advise you is that go and see your aunt, because that might be a blessing for you." He said, "Well, I cannot do that alone. She lives in a faraway country, and I cannot go and cross the desert all by myself." I said, "Indeed, my friend, and what I can do, I'll go with you. Just give me a couple of days until I sell my shop, sell all my belongings, and we can go together. Maybe I can start a business there, in that new nation, in that new country." And that's what they did. So the barber, the good person, sold all his properties and he started traveling with Evil. Good traveling with Evil across the desert. So for the first day, the whole day walking. And here they grow tired and hungry and they decided to sit and have some food. So here, Good did not allow Evil to open his sack of food. He said, "You know what? Just save it for you. You can eat from my sack, and when we finish it, we'll go to your sack." I said, "All right, bring your sack." And they started eating until they were filled, and they traveled the whole week. Both of them eat from Good's sack of food. And after that week, Good ran out of food, ran out of water. And here, again, in the desert, they grow tired, they grow hungry, they grow thirsty. So they decided to sit and eat. Evil opened his sack and he started eating without inviting Good. And here, Good was looking at that person. He said, he's my friend. He's just having fun with me. Maybe this is just a small funny trick. He does not want to invite me. And then he went and approached Evil and he said, my friend, Evil, I mean, why didn't you invite me? He said, invite you? What do you mean? What do I have to invite you? He said, well, you ate from my food. Now I have no food left, no water. He said, did I tell you to share your food with me? You are the one who invited me. You are the one who decided to share your food with me. I don't want to do the same. So that's your problem, not mine. Now let me eat and drink in peace. Good, of course, grows so sad. Why would he do this to me? And here he said, well, Evil, I'm going to make an offer. What if I give you 2 diamonds for a cup of water and a loaf of bread? Eyes wide spread on that Evil's face. I said, diamonds? Where are the diamonds? Give them to me. He said, well, give me food first. And then he said, you know what? I'm not going to only take the diamonds. I'm going to take your eyes as well. Because maybe tomorrow or the day after, we arrive to a new city. And you just tell the guards that I stole your diamonds. And they go to prison. So I'm going to take your eyes as well. And he said, all right. I mean, just save me. I'm very thirsty. I'm about to die of hunger. And then he told him, sit down. And he put a dagger inside his eyes, the left eye and the right eye. He's blind right now. Good is blind. And then he told him, okay, my friend, you took the diamonds. You took my 2 precious diamonds, my eyes. Now give me just a cup of water. And the only thing he could hear, just sandals stopping on the sand and running away. And he realized that Evil took the diamond, took his sight, and left him alone, hungry and thirsty in the desert. So Evil, after an hour, he did not know what to do. Then he started wandering right and left in that desert for 3 days, crying only blood and craving water and safety. And here, he reached an area in the desert in which nomads live. And a girl and a boy, who were the sons of a shepherd who lives in the desert, they saw him coming from afar. They went nearby him. They gave him some food, some dates they had, and some bread, and some water. As he recovered, he was asking where he was. And then the girl offered to take him to her tent so her father can take care of him. And that's what they did. She put her shoulder on his hand and they walked back to that girl, to that family's tent. So here, when her father came, who's that stranger? Is he a guest? Who is he? And she told him the whole story, that he was robbed and his eyes were taken away and he came to us for safety and for some water. And here her father opened his eyes and checked. And then he stood up and smiled at his wife and he said, this man, he will see again. I know how to make him see. Of course, if God allows him to see again. And he went and he took some leaves of sandalwood tree, and he grinded them until they were a powder. He put them inside a piece of fabric. He put some water roses there, some other ingredients, some herbs, some water, and he squeezed the whole fabric into the eyes of Good. He screamed, "Ah! It's so painful!" But here he felt relieved. And he slept for the first time in weeks, very peacefully. The next morning, as he woke up, that person did the same thing. he squeezed that piece of fabric into his eyes. And in a matter of 3-4 days, he could see some lights getting into his eyes. And he kept washing his eyes until finally he could see. He gained back his sight. And the first people he saw is that shepherd, his daughter, his wife, and his son. He hugged all of them, thanking God that they sent them into his way and they saved his life and his sight. So here, he stayed with them, helping them in their activities as nomads. And one day, after a long day of work, the father and that good, they sat down to enjoy a cup of tea in front of some campfire. And the father said, well, you are indeed a good person, like your name. So why don't you stay with us? We share everything together, and I want you to marry my daughter. And he accepted. He married his daughter, and they started living there. And one day, Good and his wife were wandering around the desert, and he finally saw this sandalwood tree. And he told her, what is this tree? I've never seen it before. And she said, oh, Good. Actually, you know what? This tree is the reason why you see again. What do you mean? And she explained what her father did to him. And what he did, he picked 10 leaves and he put them inside his pockets. And he left and he totally forgot about them. After, let's say, 40 days, he started growing bored in that desert. He's a man of the city. He's used to a lot of people. But now it's the same 5 people he spends the whole day with. He grew bored and he decided to leave to go to a city. So he told his wife, she accepted, and then he went to her father, his father-in-law. He told him that I'm bored of this life in the desert. It's not for me. I want to go to a city, if you allow me, of course. And then he told him, well, you are a good person, and wherever you go, we should go as well. So they packed their things and they went with Good to a city. So traveling for a couple of months, they reached a big city like Marrakesh with walls surrounding it. They entered inside. Good had some money working in the desert, and he could rent a house for a week for his family. He said, well, they can live here until I find a job in the city, and then I can provide for them. So as he put his whole family into that house, he went to the souk looking for a muallim, for a craftsman to help, and maybe he can learn a new craft and start some business maybe. So as he was into the souk, he found all the people, every person that lived in that city going in one direction, all of them. And then he was wondering, why are they all going this way? What is happening there? And he found an old man walking very slowly with his cane. Oh, Sheikh, why are all these people going to the same direction? He said, well, I'm sure that you are not from this place. I'm sure that you are a traveler. He said, yes. He said, you have to know that this city has a sultan. And every Friday, the sultan gathers all the people that live in the city to give them a speech, and whoever has a problem goes forward and talks directly to the sultan. And it's time today. It's the time of the week. It's Friday. It's Asr time. We need to go. And they went there. So, big crowd of people gathering around an altar. And then here comes the king, the sultan, with drum playing, and him riding his royal white horse. Until he was nearby, he was off his horse and went to speak to people. And he said, oh, beloved people of this city, my people, yesterday I had a dream. There was an angel who came to me telling me that you have a good person in your city, and he's going to be the one who heals your daughter and the daughter of the king was also blind. And here, Good did not believe his eyes, did not believe his ears. Well, is he talking about me? No, he is. No, he's not. He is indeed talking about me. I'm good. No, I'm not the only good in this world. There are many Johns, many Zouhairs, many Seths, and many goods. Why would I think I'm the one? And then he went back. He did not raise his hand, and everyone left. The Sultan left to his palace. So the whole week, Good was troubled with this idea. Is he talking about me? Is he not? And he remembered that he has sandalwood sleeves in his pockets. Maybe he can save that girl. God saved him. And he needs to save someone back. He needs to pay back. And he felt troubled. Now his father-in-law saw that he's good, he's sad, and he's always reflective, and he does not eat, he does not talk. He thought, maybe he's bored with us. Maybe he does not love us anymore. Maybe he does not love my daughter anymore. What if the next day he just leaves to a new city? What can I do? I cannot go back, and they cannot live in a city. I'm not used to this. I don't know how to make a living in a city. So, after that week, it's the day. It's Friday afternoon. And they need to go, everyone in the city, to go and see the king. Good went to see the king. And as the king spoke, "Oh, beloved people of my city, my people. Yesterday, I had a dream, a similar dream, that there is good in my people. And whoever is good, please come forward if you can heal my blind daughter." And Good raised his hand. "I am good, your majesty. I'm good. I'm over here. Bring that man closer to me." And he saluted the king. "Your majesty, can you heal my daughter?" He said, "By will of God, I can do what I know, and God will take care of the rest. If she is meant to see again, she will. If she is not meant to see, she will not." And he said, "Fair enough, go inside." So he saw his beautiful daughter in a big dome, living like a princess, but not enjoying her life, because she cannot see any of all the fancy things around her. She's blind. He took those leaves, he grinded them until they became like a powder. Water frozen, some water, some herbs. He mixed everything into a fabric, and he squeezed that piece of fabric into the eye of that princess. And she screamed, "Oh, father, it's painful!" And she lost her consciousness. The king was furious. "I brought you here to save and to heal my daughter, and you killed her? Take this man to the prison. He shall be beheaded the next morning." And as he was furious and giving punishment to Good, he felt a gentle hand touching his hand and grabbing into him. "Father, can you please ask the doctor to give me some of his medicine again?" And he gave her some of that medicine. He squeezed again the piece of fabric, and she fell asleep like a baby. And every morning for 7 days, that's what he will do. He will squeeze some drops of that water into her eyes until she could see. Everyone in the city was happy. The king announced it, a big feast. Now, a big reward is waiting for Good. He told him, "Son, tell whatever you want. I can even allow you to marry my daughter." And he said, "No, your majesty. Actually, I don't want any money. I don't want nothing. I just want to go and live with my family." And he said, "Your family can come to the palace." And they brought them. 2 guards knocking on the door of that unknown house of that shepherd. He opened the door after having a 1 week storm of thoughts. This Good left us here, and now he sees two royal guards in his palace. He was sure that Good did something bad. And now he's dragging them into prison. He's dragging them into punishment. And what do you want, guards? He said, are you the father-in-law of Good? He said, yes. You need to come with us to the palace. What did he do? What problem did he put us all in? You go, and there you will find out. And they dragged all of them. They were in front of the king, crying and asking for mercy. Please, your majesty, we did not do anything, please, we don't even... Why do you want to punish us? And then they heard a gentle voice. Father, it's only me, don't worry. And he's so good. He told him, don't worry, father. Let me tell you what happened. And he told him the story from the beginning to the end, as I told you. And now they started living in the palace. Here, the princess grew in love with Good. And he felt something for her as well. He was the one who saved her. And then she asked her father to ask him again. I want him to marry me. I can be his second wife. That's okay for me. His first wife will always be like a sister to me. So the king proposed. And he asked, Good, do you want to marry my daughter? Because she is in love with you. Of course, if you want. Of course, Good could not say no to a sultan. And he married his daughter. Now he's having two wives. A lot of conflicts, but that's not my story. So here, the sultan, after a couple of years, he died as he was sick. And he had no sons, but he has a son-in-law, Good. And now, as people loved Good, they made him the sultan on them. Good is a sultan right now, and he carried on with the tradition of meeting the people every Friday afternoon. And one day, as he was meant to greet his people, he saw a familiar face. He was speaking to people, but the back of his head is telling him, he is. No, he is not. He certainly is. No, maybe he's not. No, he is. And what he could see is evil. He is a beggar right now, doing miserably in life as it looks on him. And he said, oh, beloved people of my city, yesterday I had a dream. And my dream says that whoever is named evil, I want him to step forward, because I will give him a reward. And that beggar, he said, may your majesty, I am evil. This is me. Where is my reward? Bring that man forward, bring him closer. And people dispatched, they went back home. So the sultan, Good, invited evil back to his palace. And he said, you are evil, right? He said, yes, your majesty. Well, before you collect your money, I don't know if you remember someone called Good. He said, no, your majesty, I'm evil and evil cannot be with Good. And he said, do you remember a friend that went to the desert and he wanted to accompany you to see your aunt? As he was hearing all the details, now he's becoming sure that's the one. He took his eyes and his diamonds from him and left him in the desert. But he's not dead. He's a sultan, and now he's in front of him. Now evil started asking for mercy, kissing hands and feet, for mercy and forgiveness. And of course, Good is always forgiven. And he forgave that man. He forgave evil. And he gave him a sack full of money. And that evil went and wanted to go out and leave. And the third step he made, his head was beheaded. He was killed by the prime minister. And when the sultan, Good, looked at the prime minister, what did you do? I forgave him. I gave him money. Maybe he will repent. He said, no, your majesty. We should always cut off evil from our lives. He did bad things to you, and I'm sure that he will do worse thing to other people. He took what he deserves. And now, good, lived happily ever after, within us and within everyone, until the end of time. And this is the end of my story. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope you loved it. And of course, it's the end of my story, but this is not the end of the evening. We still have one wonderful story all the way from London, and it's, I guess we do. Do we?
Yes, we do.
We've got
yes, we
plenty of time. That brought so many memories. That story. That procession, that Friday procession, reminded me of the procession through Marrakesh.
Oh yeah.
Through the souk, and of course, Marrakesh is full of herbalists, and
And yeah, I mean, the takeaway from this story is that good always wins.
yeah, it's a wonderful story. It's a one, and when you were a sultan telling the story, you were the sultan. It was wonderfully told.
Thank
Now,
you.
I
Now
believe
we have the wonderful Sultan Sif. All right, go ahead, Sif.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that story, Zouhair. Evil and goodness. Goodness always has to win. Now, he was looking over there all the time, looking at me, so maybe if he's still there, I'll look at him, unless he's gone looking at his phone. So anyway,
you've muted yourself, Seth.
am I now muted? Fortunately, I don't have any control, but did you hear anything of what I said?
No.
Start again.
Yes.
Start again. Anyway, it's very nice to be here in Marrakesh, and I thought I would tell a story from London. And the reason I just thought of that was, excuse me, it's a bit cold in Marrakesh tonight. I came into the World Storytelling Cafe, and I was surprised to see this book, London Folk Tales for Children. I don't know if you can see that. Which obviously has been left here by Mike and Lucy Wood. There's a nice little library if ever you come to World Storytelling Cafe of books, quite a few good books from South American stories, ready to tell stories. So if ever you're here, you can always read some of this. I thought I'd tell you a story, a very famous story from this book. It's a very famous English story, but it also connects with London. And in London, people speak many, many languages. There are 300 languages spoken in London every day. And in London tonight, you say, good evening. If somebody comes from Morocco, they would say possibly, Misa el Khair, or they would probably use the Moroccan version, the Tamazight, the Berber version, Timansouin. So you might hear these languages even in London, because London is a big city with 9 million people. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, people have come to London. And in the olden days, they used to say, the streets are paved with gold. Walk along the streets and you will find gold. Well, times have changed. They're certainly not paved with gold. But people often said this. And this story comes from a place outside of London, but it connects with London town. It's a very famous story about a man called John Chapman, who lived in East Anglia. That's about 150 miles away from London. He was just a simple peddler. Now, he sold needles and pins and buttons and sewing thread and ribbons and little bits here and little bits there that people wanted. And he would walk around the countryside, because the people didn't have shops in the countryside. And he would take his wares. He would sell some buttons. He would sell some thread. He would sell a little bit of ribbon. But he noticed that times were getting very bad. And it seemed that people didn't have any special extra money. And even a little bit of ribbon You would only buy it on a birthday or some special occasion. He thought, times are hard. I'm not selling very much. And in his garden he had a little house with thatched roof, and he had a crooked old apple tree with some apples there. And the apples were good. They gave him something extra to eat in the autumn when they came. But they didn't last forever. And one night he went to bed and he had a dream. And the dream said, go to London Bridge and there you will find your fortune. What a beautiful dream. But when he woke up, he realized it was just a dream. What a nice dream. If dreams could come true, wouldn't this be great? But again, he took his little satchel, trying to sell some ribbons, trying to sell some buttons. Nobody bought on that day. Life was getting hard. Even his little dog, woof, 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 woof. He didn't have enough to feed his little dog. Again, he went to sleep. And again, he had the same dream. Go to London and you will find your fortune on London Bridge. He woke up in the morning. He thought, maybe there's something in this. Wouldn't it be great if dreams did come true? But another hard day. Well, that night, the third night, he had the same dream again. Go to London Bridge and you will find your fortune. He woke up and he thought, I'm going to London Bridge. If I've dreamt it 3 times, it must be the case. And he took his little dog, he took his little satchel, and he walked out of his little garden past the crooked old apple tree and the little gate. It creaked as it left, and it creaked as it closed, and off he went to London. But in those days, when you had no money, you had to walk. And did it take 4 days? Did it take 5 days? Or did it take 6? However long it took, he eventually arrived in London. And he was amazed. So many people, and carts coming here, and lorries going there, and scooters going there. Just like in Marrakesh. If you come to Marrakesh, you will have to watch out for the zoom, zoom, zoom. The scooters are coming, you have to watch. Well, to him, in those days, it was just carts and horses, but he had to look out of the way, he had to look here, and people were shouting, it was so noisy, come and buy my herrings, buy my garlic, who will buy my sweet red roses, come and buy, it was noisy, he'd never seen anything like it. And then he saw the famous London Bridge. And London Bridge, there was only one bridge across that river. And it was a long, 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 long bridge. And there were little houses and shops all along the bridge. It was just like a street. But he went onto that bridge and he looked. I'm supposed to find my fortune here. And he waited. And he waited, and his little dog, woof, 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 woof. He waited all day. Nothing happened. So he just leant against a stall on the bridge, went to sleep, and next morning he woke up again. Still no fortune. 2 days on London Bridge. People coming, people going, people selling on the bridge, people buying on the bridge. The third day, the same. He never saw anything. He never saw gold on the streets. He never saw his fortune. And he just stood by the river, by the bridge, looking at the river, and he thought, I'm going home. I'm going home. It was just a silly dream. Now there was a stallholder, a man who was selling onions on the bridge. And he said, hey, you, I've seen you on this bridge. 3 days you've been here. You're not selling, you're not begging, you're not asking anybody for anything. Why are you standing on my bridge, on our London Bridge? Well, you see, I had a dream. And in the dream it said, go to London and you will find your fortune. Ah, you silly thing. Go to London and find your fortune. Look, I had a dream last night, and my dream said, go to somewhere in East Anglia. I don't know where East Anglia is. And there is a house with a thatched cottage, and there's a crooked apple tree, and there's a gate that goes, "Meow, meow." You must think I'm stupid. Would I follow that dream? No way. If I followed that dream, I'd be as stupid as you are. Now, off you go. Go back. Don't worry. I'll be going back. I'll be going back to my home, because maybe my fortune's not on London Bridge, but I'm off. And off he went, and his little dog ran behind him. And if it took him 6 days to get to London, it took him 3 days to get back home. And when he got back home, the man had also told him that under that apple tree, if he dug, he would find a pot of gold. Straight away, he went into his shed. He got his spade, and he dug under his own crooked apple tree. Inside that squeaky old gate. And what did he find? A pot of gold. But being the kind and generous man that he was, he didn't keep it for himself. He shared it with the people of the village. And the people of the village in that town, that little village called Swaffham, and it's a real place, if you go there, the people use the money to put a new roof on their old church. And if you go there to this very day, and you walk into that church, on the side of one of the long pews, that's a long stall where the people sit to pray, there is a little carving. And there's a carving of John Chupham and a little dog. And that is the story of Go to London Bridge and Find Your Fortune. And I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you very much.
That was a lovely story.
Well, you know it, don't you, John?
Well, my dad, who was from down the road in Sudbury, used to say, went to Swaffham, did a day's thrashing, didn't get nothing. Now that's something, ain't it, boy?
Yeah.
No, it's a wonderful place. Wonderful story, wonderful stories tonight.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
A round of applause to Zouhair and Seth. Fantastic. We've been in the World Storytelling Cafe in its physical form. If you happen to be in Marrakesh and you happen to be a storyteller, and you happen to be up in the museum district and opposite the Café Fondouk, Le Fondouk, you will see the World Storytelling Cafe. And should you happen to pop in there, and should you happen to tell a story or two, I'm sure you would be well fed. But please come and visit. Please come and visit us. Even if there's no storytellers, as Seth says, there are books of stories all around, and there will be more books. I'm bringing some over with me. And but tonight's fantastic. What have we got coming up in the cafe? Back in the virtual world, we have on Friday at 6 o'clock UK time, 5 o'clock Moroccan time, 5 p.m. that is, or 6 p.m. UK time. We have Solar Story, telling wonderful stories from Africa for children. Then on Sunday at 7 o'clock UK time, 6 p.m. Moroccan time, we invite everyone to come onto the site to tell a story. We had the worldwide story round hosted by Mike Rust. I nearly said Mike Wood there. Suddenly I demoted him to storyteller. And then on Tuesday at 5 o'clock in the evening, we have our international young tellers, and hopefully they will have got over their holidays, their spring breaks, or and maybe they will join us again this week. But that's open, and young tellers can tell in any language they like. as they can on the Worldwide Story Round.
How old are the young tellers?
Pardon?
How old are the young tellers?
Oh, that's a relevant question. Young tellers can be anything under 20, anyone under 25. It used to be under 18, or 18 and under, but it's now under to anyone under the age of 25. So if you happen to be passing any young tellers in Marrakesh, Zouhair, you can invite them to just come on and tell a tale on the and it might be easier in a few weeks' time when Ramadan is over. It might be easier for them. And that's what we've got coming up. And it's a continuous program, 2 or 3 programs a week. I'm really looking forward to getting back to the cafe at the beginning of May. But for now, another huge round of applause for Stefan Zouhair. And a big thanks to Zouhair, who has actually managed to keep this thing going right through Ramadan on Wednesday evenings. He in fact, he hasn't slept for the whole month. Thank you, Zouhair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan Zouhair. Thank you, John, for the promotion, by the way. I was glad of that.
What did you say?
Thank you for the promotion.
Oh, not at all.
Well, it's the job. Right. Anyway, bless you all. Thank you all for bringing. So, Ali, as usual, thank you for flying the magic carpet. There's keeping it all going. But for now, good night or good afternoon if you happen to be in Washington, D.C.
I'm about to go fix myself some dinner, as a matter of fact.
Oh, good morning if you're in Australia.
And thank you, David, for coming on. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take
and
care.
Lucy. I forgot Lucy.
Sorry.
Lucy's metamorphosed into a book with stars.
It's a magic book. Magic coming out of it.
Hey, John.
And that book is Seth's book.
Yes. And there's another one too that's just come out, London River Tales for Children.
Oh.
I think it's also available in the Henny Cafe. It might even be here.
Yeah. But you can get it on Amazon, I presume, as well.
Yes. That's the easiest way of internationally for people to get it. Yeah.
Before
There's
we sign off,
London Folk Tales.
Yeah, but Papa C, you're trying to get that.
Before we sign off, I'm sorry, Lucy. I didn't mean to step in on your comments. No. I just want everyone to take a look at Seth and Zouhair together, because this is a story in itself. Now, Seth, don't take this the wrong way. Look at them, generational storytellers.
Yes.
Yes.
This is my big brother. Yeah.
And I point that out because
he's my young brother.
Yeah.
I point that out because Brother Z is continuing what Seth and some of us other more seasoned tellers have done, and Brother Seth is also taking pointers and inspiration from Brother Z. So I just think this is a very, very wonderful picture, and I just wanted to share that real quick. And I apologize about stepping on anyone's toes.
And on that wonderful note, good night, everyone. We'll let Ali get some sleep. We'll go let Zouhair get some sleep. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
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 Good nobbin.
Good nobbin. The shufaq al-khair.
Hey, watch how you say that. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go cook food.
Good evening. Thanks for the inspiration from you too, Baba C.
Oh, before they cut us off, I saw your Instagram posting, but I didn't know how to respond to it. No, I'm talking about Seth, but I didn't know how to respond to it. No, when Brother Z, I call you Brother Z because I don't want to mispronounce your name. But when Brother Z reaches out for me on Instagram, I always respond, I think. Right. So, but Seth, I saw something from you on Instagram today, and I thought it was wonderful, but I didn't know how to respond.
I don't know what it was. What was it? This?
It was, no, you posted something. I don't remember right now. I'm old. I mean, but it was something, and it said it was you, and it was wonderful. So don't worry about it.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Okay.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Nice to see you, David. Nice to see you. See you at the festival. You're going to the festival at the Edge.
Maybe.
Oh, I hope so. Good night. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye, take care.
Take care. Bye, David.